Every disappearance has a final moment of certainty. A last sighting, a last call, a last place someone was known to be. The last known tells real true crime cases using only the facts.
I want you to picture a ravine. It's not just, a ditch. It's a 25-foot drop, and it's choked with scrub brush and rocks right near the main ramp of Castaic Lake in California.
Mm-hmm.
It's early morning, maybe 5:30 a.m., and the light is that gray pre-dawn haze. You're a law enforcement officer, and you're actually just there for a training exercise. You aren't looking for a body, you're not looking for a crime scene, but then you look down.
And you see a 2003 Toyota Highlander, beige,
Yeah.
lying on its side. It's smashed up, obviously tumbled down from the road above. And that's the moment where your stomach just drops, because you know the physics of a crash like that. You approach it expecting a recovery mission, not a rescue.
Right, exactly. You're bracing for the worst. You scramble down the slope, you get to the vehicle, the rear window is shattered, and not from the impact. It looks like it's been kicked out from the inside.
On the inside, that's a huge detail.
It's huge. There's blood on the headrest, a little on the back seat. You check the engine, it's stone cold. And the driver's seat, it's empty.
That image, the cold engine, the blood, the kicked out window, and just the silence is the opening scene of one of the most frustrating, baffling, and psychologically complex missing persons cases of the last decade. It's a locked room mystery, but the room is the California landscape, and the door was wide open.
Today we are doing a deep dive into the disappearance of Bryce Laspisa. And look, I'll be honest, when I first saw the headline, I thought, okay, college kid, car crash, wandered off. It sounds tragic, but maybe straightforward.
Yeah, you think you know the story.
You do. But then I started digging into the source stack. The KHTS articles, the detailed timelines from OC Weekly, the massive obsessive threads on the Unsolved Mystery subreddit, and I realized I was completely wrong. This isn't a story about a car crash.
No, the crash is just the punctuation mark at the end of a very long, very chaotic sentence. If we just focus on the ravine, we miss the actual story. This is a deep dive into a 30-hour period of really psychological disintegration. It's about a young man who seemingly got stuck between two lives and couldn't figure out which way to go.
And the central question we have to try to answer isn't just where is he, it's who was he in those final moments? Did Bryce Laspisa walk away from his life intentionally? Or did his mind fracture so badly that his life just slipped away from him?
It's the ultimate question of agency versus pathology. Was this a decision or was this a symptom? To even begin to guess at that, we have to strip away the missing person poster image and look at the actual human being. We need to go back to who Bryce was before the Highlander went over that cliff.
So let's get into the context. We're in August 2013. Bryce Laspisa is 19. He's starting his sophomore year of college, and on paper, he's the all-American kid. Bright red hair, good-looking guy, 5'11". He's studying graphic and industrial design at Sierra College up in Rocklin, which is in Northern California.
And on paper is a really important distinction here, because the family narrative, at least initially, is very much about a happy, well-adjusted kid excited for school. But there's a huge geographical context we can't ignore. The Laspisa family, his parents, Karen and Michael, have recently retired and moved from the suburbs of Illinois all the way to Laguna Niguel in Orange County. Bryce moved with them in 2012.
That's a huge culture shock. I mean, going from the Midwest to Orange County, that is a completely different social ecosystem. And then he goes north to Rocklin for school. So in the span of a year or two, his entire support network, his childhood friends, his familiar environments, they're all gone. He's kind of rebuilding his identity from scratch.
Exactly. And while the reports say he was excited to go back for sophomore year, we know that freshman year is often where the cracks start to show for students who are struggling with that kind of transition. But okay, fast forward to August 26, 2013. Classes are starting. He talks to his mom, Karen. By all accounts, it's a totally normal call. How's class? Good. Talk to you later. Just, boilerplate stuff.
And this is where the timeline goes from 0 to 100 incredibly fast. Within 24 hours of that normal phone call, the wheels don't just come off, the car explodes.
Yeah.
We start getting reports from his roommate, Sean, and his girlfriend, Kim, that Bryce is acting bizarrely.
And we have to be really specific about what bizarre means here. We aren't talking about him being a little moody. We're talking about a fundamental shift in his neurochemistry. The sources are pretty consistent that two substances are driving this: hard liquor and Vyvanse.
Okay, let's dig into the Vyvanse aspect for a second, because I think people hear ADHD meds and they think, oh, he popped an Adderall to study. But I looked into the pharmacology of Vyvanse specifically. It's lisdexamphetamine. It's a prodrug, which means it's inactive until your body metabolizes it into dextroamphetamine.
Right, so it's designed to be smoother and longer lasting than something like Adderall. But Bryce wasn't prescribed this.
That's the critical piece. If you have ADHD, that medication brings you up to a baseline of focus. If you don't have ADHD and you take high doses, which the reports suggest he was doing, it acts as a potent euphoric stimulant. It floods the brain with dopamine and norepinephrine. You feel invincible, you feel focused, and you feel completely awake.
And he was using it to game, right? He wasn't pulling all-nighters to study for a non-existent exam in the first week of school. He was staying up all night playing Xbox.
Yeah, playing video games. And this is where the physiology turns into a nightmare. We have reports that he was awake for potentially 3 days straight. When you combine amphetamines with severe sleep deprivation, you trigger a state called stimulant psychosis. Your brain literally stops clearing out waste products. You start to hallucinate. Paranoia sets in. You enter a state of what some experts call lucid irrationality.
Lucid irrationality. That is a perfect term for what comes next.
Yeah.
Because he wasn't stumbling around slurring his words like a drunk person. He was functioning, but his logic board was completely fried. His girlfriend, Kim, mentions a specific conversation where Bryce admits to taking that pill. And that seems to be the moment she realizes, oh, this isn't just Bryce being tired. This is chemical.
Exactly. And then the behavior shifts from just being high to something that feels final. He starts giving away his possessions. And this is a detail that always stops me in my tracks when I review this case. He gives his Xbox to Sean, his roommate. Okay, maybe he's quitting gaming, trying to focus on school.
Right, you can almost rationalize that.
You could, but then he takes a pair of diamond earrings, a gift from his mother, and gives them to a friend.
That's the detail that screams crisis to me. You don't give away your mother's diamond earrings because you're turning over a new leaf. You give them away because you don't think you're going to be around to deal with the consequences.
It's textbook suicidal ideation behavior. It's called cleaning house. You're detaching from the material world. However, in the context of a missing person, we also have to look at the alternative. Was he shedding weight to run?
That's a good point. But usually if you're running away to start a new life, you sell the diamonds for cash. You don't just give them away. Giving them away implies you don't need money where you're going.
So we're at August 28th now. The spiral is accelerating. He sends a text to Kim saying she'd be better off without him. Classic goodbye text. He drives to her house in Chico, which is about an hour and a half from Rockland. He shows up, and he's agitated. He's not making sense. Kim is so terrified. She does something that I think speaks volumes about his state. She physically takes his car keys.
Think about the threshold you have to cross to take another adult's car keys. You have to be absolutely convinced that they are an immediate danger to themselves or to other people. Kim is the boots on the ground here. She sees his eyes, she hears his voice, she knows he cannot drive.
But then we have the intervention that fails. And I want to be really careful here because it is so easy to judge parents in hindsight. But Bryce calls his mom Karen. He wants his keys back. Karen is hundreds of miles away in Laguna Niguel. She gets on the phone with Kim. Kim says he's not okay. He can't drive.
And then Karen talks to Bryce. And Bryce, he pulls it together.
He does. And this is the tragedy of that lucid irrationality we talked about. People in a manic or psychotic state can often mask their symptoms for short bursts, especially with authority figures like parents or police. He likely sounded calm, maybe a little tired, but coherent. He convinced his mother he was fine.
So Karen, thinking she's respecting her 19-year-old son's autonomy and hearing a calm voice on the other end of the line, tells Kim to give the keys back. And Kim, you have to imagine how reluctantly she does it.
That moment is the hinge point. If the keys stay with Kim, we are not having this conversation. But the keys go back to Bryce. And to her credit, Karen realizes something is off. She offers to fly up immediately. She says, "I'm coming to get you. I'll book a flight right now."
And Bryce refuses. He says, and this is a quote that just haunts the whole case, "I have a lot to talk to you about," but he insists she shouldn't come. He says he's going to drive home to them.
I have a lot to talk to you about. Well, what does that even mean to you in this context?
In the context of the timeline, it sounds like a confession is coming. Was he going to confess to the drug use? To failing classes? To something deeper about his life, his identity? We just don't know. But he successfully negotiates a delay. Don't come here, I'll come to you. It buys him time. It buys him the car keys.
So he leaves Chico late at night on August 28th. The plan, the stated plan, is drive to his apartment in Rockland, get some sleep, then drive south to his parents the next morning. But Bryce doesn't go to Rockland. He gets on the I-5 and heads straight south. And this is where we enter the most bewildering phase of the story. The drive.
The drive that should have taken 6 or 7 hours, but instead turns into a slow-motion nightmare. He ends up in a place called Button Willow, California.
Button Willow. I mean, even the name sounds like the middle of nowhere. It's about 350 miles south of his school and about 3 hours north of his parents' house in Orange County. It's basically a truck stop town in the Central Valley.
It's a transit point.
Yeah.
Nobody lives in the rest stop at Button Willow. You stop, you gas up, you leave.
But Bryce doesn't leave. This brings us to what investigators call the mystery of the 15 hours. It's 9:00 a.m. on August 29th. Bryce runs out of gas. He's just sitting in his Highlander on the side of a road he calls roadside assistance. And this introduces a key figure, Christian, the mechanic.
Christian is a crucial witness here. He's one of the last people to have a normal, sustained interaction with Bryce. He comes out, delivers 3 gallons of gas. Now, the logical human behavior here is thank the guy, put the gas in, drive to the nearest pump, fill up, and finish the 3-hour drive home. You're almost there.
But Bryce doesn't move. He puts the gas in, and then he just sits there.
For hours.
For hours. Christian actually comes back later. The parents, Karen and Michael, they're tracking this. They see the credit card charge for roadside assistance. But Bryce hasn't arrived. They haven't heard from him. So they call Christian's company. Christian goes back to the rest area and finds the car still there. Bryce is just sitting in the driver's seat.
And Christian asks him, what are you doing? And Bryce says, nothing. Christian notes that Bryce's eyes look a little red, maybe tired, but he doesn't look like he's tripping. He doesn't look panicked. He just looks stuck.
What is happening in a human brain to make someone sit in a stationary car for 13 hours when safety and home are just 3 hours away?
I think we're looking at severe executive dysfunction. When you crash from a massive stimulant binge, combined with that level of sleep deprivation, your brain's ability to initiate tasks just shuts down. It's something called volition paralysis.
Yeah.
He knows he needs to drive. He probably wants to drive. But the signal from the brain to the body to put car in gear and go just isn't firing. He is trapped in a loop of inaction.
That's terrifying to think about. Just watching the sun move across the sky, baking in the Central Valley heat, completely unable to make yourself move.
And shame likely plays a huge role, too. He's heading home to have a talk. He knows he's in trouble. The closer he gets to Laguna Niguel, the closer he gets to the consequences. Button Willow becomes a kind of limbo state. As long as he stays there, he doesn't have to face whatever it is he's running from.
Eventually, the police get involved. It's 9:00 p.m. now. He's been there for 12 hours. Officers from the Kern County Sheriff's Department approach the car. They talk to him. They search the car.
And they find no drugs. This is important. He likely finished whatever he had or he tossed it. They perform a field sobriety test. He passes.
He passes after 3 days awake on stimulants.
It's that lucid mask again. He can walk a straight line. He can follow a pen with his eyes. He isn't drunk. The police see a polite, clean-cut college kid who says he's just tired and blowing off steam. They don't have probable cause to detain him. They just tell him to call his mom.
So he calls Karen again, and he tells her, he's just blowing off steam.
He's blowing off steam by sitting in a hot car for 12 hours.
Yeah.
I mean, it makes absolutely no sense. But again, you have to put yourself in the parents' shoes. They're in a bind. The police are telling them he's fine. The mechanic is telling them he's weird, but okay.
Christian, the mechanic, actually comes back a third time. This guy went so far above and beyond. He essentially herds Bryce to the interstate. He follows him in his truck, watches him get on the I-5 southbound. He calls the parents and says he's on the road. He's headed your way.
That was around 11:00 p.m., I think.
Yeah, about 11:00 p.m. So finally, the parents think, okay, the nightmare's over. He's driving the last leg. He'll be home by 2.0. They can finally breathe.
I want to pause on the parents' decision not to just drive up there.
Yeah.
There is so much vitriol online about this. Why didn't they go get him? But you have to look at the information asymmetry. They are receiving reassurance from law enforcement.
Right.
They are terrified of overstepping and pushing him away further. If they drive and he drives down, they miss him. It's a strategic gamble that they lost. But at the time, given what they knew, it seemed like the logical play.
So he's on the road. The long road to nowhere continues. It's now the early morning of August 30th. At 1:50 a.m., Bryce calls home again. He says, I got off the highway for a bit, but I'm back on. Just a quick check-in.
And then the final call. 2:08 a.m. He tells his mother he is getting off the I-5. He says he's in a suburban area and he's going to sleep in his car because he's too tired to drive.
But the GPS data and the cell tower pings show he wasn't in a suburb. He was in the rugged, dark terrain near Castaic Lake. He lied.
Or he was hallucinating. To a sleep-deprived brain, The lights of a dam or a distant facility might look like a suburb. But yes, the point is he stops driving toward home, he turns off the main path.
And here is the gap that drives investigators crazy. A surveillance camera on a place called Lake Hughes Road captures his car driving up a hill at 2:15 a.m. and then nothing. For 2 hours and 14 minutes, just radio silence.
And then at 4:29 a.m., that same camera sees him driving up the same hill again.
So he was circling. What was he doing for 2 hours?
He was circling, or he parked and sat in the dark again, just like in Buttonwillow. He was in that area, on that specific stretch of road, for over 2 hours. This is the final deliberation. He was alone, in the dark, right on the edge of the ravine. Was he building up the courage to crash? Was he fighting the urge to sleep? We will never, ever know what happened in the cab of that Toyota during those 2 hours.
And then shortly after that 4:2000 a.m. sighting, the car goes over the edge.
Let's talk about the mechanics of the crash itself, because the physical evidence tells a very specific story. When the California Highway Patrol analyzed the scene, they didn't find skid marks.
Meaning he didn't slam on the brakes, he didn't try to stop.
Exactly. The tire tracks in the dirt indicated acceleration. He drove toward the cliff edge with intent. The car launched, it tumbled 25 feet and landed on its passenger side at the bottom of the ravine.
Police immediately coded this as a suicide attempt. I mean, it's the only logical explanation for the physics.
Yeah.
But he survives.
And this is where the human survival instinct, I think, overrides the suicidal ideation. The crash happens, he's alive, he's likely concussed, bleeding from the head, which would explain the blood on the headrest. And he realizes he's trapped. The car is on its side, he can't open the door. So what does he do? He kicks out the rear window.
He fights to get out.
He fights to get out, which suggests that whatever death wish drove him off that road evaporated the second metal hit rock.
So he crawls out of the wreck, and then he makes a series of choices that baffle everyone. He leaves his laptop, he leaves his cell phone, he leaves his wallet with his ID and all his credit cards.
But there was a duffel bag found outside the car. It was unzipped. It looked like someone had maybe rummaged through it.
So he takes something, a change of clothes, a weapon.
We don't know. But leaving the wallet and phone is the key signal here. If you are planning a start-over disappearance, a voluntary vanish, you take your money, you take your ID. You might ditch the phone because of tracking. Sure, that makes sense. But leaving the wallet? That points to severe disorientation.
Yeah, or a decision that he wouldn't need money anymore.
Exactly. Either way, it's a very strange choice.
The sun comes up. The car is found around 5:01 a.m. by those officers. The search begins immediately, and it is massive. Helicopters, divers in the lake, bloodhounds on the ground.
And early on, there's this horrific moment that I think just traumatized the family deeply. A body is found. A burned body, not far from the crash site.
Oh, God. Can you imagine getting that call? You get the call that your son's car is in a ravine, he's missing, and then they find a burned corpse nearby.
The family was preparing for a funeral. They were bracing for the worst possible news. But then the forensics came back. It wasn't Bryce. It was a man named Lamondre Miles, a homicide victim from a completely unrelated case who just happened to be dumped in the same area.
Talk about a statistical anomaly. Just two nightmares intersecting at the exact same GPS coordinate.
But while the divers are clearing the lake and finding nothing, the bloodhounds get a hit. They pick up Bryce's scent at the vehicle, they track it up the ravine, onto the road, and they follow it down Lake Hughes Road.
They track him away from the crash?
They track him away from the crash for a significant distance. They track him to the Castaic truck stop on Castaic Road.
And then?
The trail just stops.
Stops like he evaporated. What does that mean?
Stops like he got into a vehicle. The scent pool ends at the pavement of the truck stop. The dogs can't follow it any further.
Okay, so this brings us to the theories. We have a crash, a survival, a walk to a truck stop, and then silence for 11 years. Let's break down the possibilities, because none of them fit perfectly.
Let's start with Theory A, the fugue state death by misadventure. This is the one that really relies on the medical facts of the case.
The head injury theory.
Right. He crashes the car. He has a TBI, a traumatic brain injury. He's already psychotic from the sleep deprivation and the V-vents. He wanders away from the crash, completely confused. He walks to the truck stop, not because he has a plan, but because he sees lights. It's a beacon in the darkness.
But then where does he go from there?
That's the problem. If he wandered off into the brush from the truck stop and died of exposure, we should have found him. That area is rugged, sure, but it's not the Amazon. It's heavily trafficked. It's been searched by professionals and amateurs for over a decade now. Bones tend to stay put. If he died nearby, he is incredibly well hidden.
Which moves us to theory B, suicide completed elsewhere.
The logic here is that the crash was attempt number 1. It failed. So he walked away from it, found his way to the truck stop to find a way to complete attempt number 2. Maybe he hitched a ride to a bridge or into the ocean or somewhere more remote where his body wouldn't be found.
But again, why leave the wallet if you're going to hitch a ride?
Yeah.
Although...
Well, because he knew he wouldn't need it. This theory fits the giving away the diamond earrings behavior. The intent was finality from beginning to end.
But then we have the theory that the internet, and a lot of investigators really latch onto, theory C, the voluntary disappearance, the start over theory.
This is the Don Draper fantasy, right?
Yeah.
He staged the crash, or at least survived it, and used the confusion to walk away from his life. He got into a truck, hitched a ride out of state, and just started over.
And there is a piece of evidence, or rather a piece of gossip, that turned into an investigative lead that supports this, the secret sister.
This is a really important and very nuanced point. In the initial media blitz, Bryce was often presented as an only child. But digging deeper into the background sources, it appears he has a half-sister.
And she wasn't in the picture at all.
No. The reports suggest she was estranged from the family, potentially kicked out or cut off for reasons we don't know. Now, we don't know the details of that relationship, and we shouldn't speculate on the parents' choices there, but we have to look at it from Bryce's 19-year-old perspective.
If he grew up seeing a sibling get exiled for messing up or for not fitting the family mold.
And now here he is. He's failing classes. He's addicted to Vyvanse. He's drinking heavily. And there's another fact that often gets buried. He was arrested for MDMA possession back in Illinois before they moved. He had a criminal record he was trying to outrun.
So he's sitting in Buttonwillow for 13 hours thinking, I'm about to go home and tell them I failed. I'm going to be the next one kicked out. I'm going to be the family disappointment.
The fear of that shame, the fear of the perfect family narrative collapsing, might have been more terrifying to him than the unknown. So he crashes the car. Maybe it was an accident, maybe it wasn't. But once he's out, he sees an opportunity. They think I'm dead. Good, I'll go be dead.
And he walks to the truck stop, gets a ride, and disappears into the American landscape.
It's plausible,
Yeah.
and legally it's very complicated. If Bryce is alive today, he's 30 years old, he is an adult. If a police officer pulls him over in Texas tomorrow and runs his prints, and it matches a missing person.
They call the parents, right?
No. They tell Bryce, you are listed as a missing person. Your parents are looking for you. If Bryce says, I know, I don't want to talk to them, the police have to respect that. They cannot force an adult to return home. They would just update the file to located and close the case. His parents might never know.
There are rumors, again, unconfirmed, mostly from Reddit threads, that his status in some law enforcement databases was changed at some point to voluntarily missing.
That's a persistent rumor in the online communities. If true, it implies the police found something, a note, a witness, a digital footprint we don't know about, that convinced them he left on purpose. But the family has always denied this, and the case is still officially active on NamUs.
Let's talk about the family dynamic one last time, because I feel like we've sort of skirted around the intensity of it. The Laspisas have kept this story alive for 11 years now.
They absolutely have. They post on the Find Bryce Laspisa Facebook page. They advocate for other missing persons. Every year on the anniversary, they ask for random acts of kindness in his name.
It's just heartbreaking because whether he walked away or whether he died in that ravine, the loss is the same for them. It's ambiguous loss.
It's the worst kind of grief.
Yep.
There's no body to bury. There's no grave to visit. Just a question mark that hangs over every birthday and every holiday.
And the NamUs database. You checked it recently.
I did. His DNA is on file. His dental records are on file. That means if a Jane Doe or John Doe turns up anywhere in the country, they run it against Bryce's profile.
And in 11 years.
0 matches. Nothing.
Which brings us right back to the truck stop.
It really does. Everything comes back to that one location.
That truck stop is such a powerful symbol in this story. It's the border. On one side, you have the wrecked car, the bloody seat, the academic probation, the disappointed parents, the life of Bryce Laspisa.
And on the other side, the highway. The stream of anonymous traffic heading everywhere and nowhere at once.
If he stepped into a truck, he could be anyone today. He could be a line cook in Seattle. He could be a ranch hand in Montana. He could have a new name, a new life.
Or he could be a homeless man in San Diego who doesn't even remember his own name because of the brain injury he sustained in that crash.
But if he didn't step into a truck...
then he's still there. He's in Castaic, reclaimed by the landscape, hidden in a way that defies logic and a decade of searching.
I think that's what makes this case stick with people so much, is the proximity of the two possibilities. He is either completely gone, erased by nature, or he is out there choosing silence every single day.
And I think we have to ask ourselves, which is more terrifying, that he died alone in the dark, or that he is alive, and for 11 years he has woken up every single morning and decided that his old life, his parents, his friends, his name, wasn't worth a single phone call.
It forces you to look at the people in your own life who say they're fine.
Absolutely, because Bryce said he was fine to the police. He said he was fine to his mom on the phone. He said he was fine to the mechanic. And 12 hours later, he drove his car off a cliff.
I'm fine can be the heaviest sentence in the English language.
It really can.
That's it for this deep dive. If you have theories, or if you just want to see the maps and the timeline we talked about, we'll have links in the show notes.
And if you see someone sitting in a car for 13 hours, maybe just ask them if they need more than gas.
Take care of each other.
Stay safe.
This was the last known. The facts are limited. The record ends where the answers disappear. Until more is known, this case remains unresolved.